All right, welcome to the Boothish AMA. This is Sheo Masori, and if you listen to the Boothish podcast, the last episode we had Matthew Bernier of Flashbulb Memories out of Tucson, Arizona. The last episode we had we have the dreaded echo on my side that I know you guys can't hear. So give me one second. Oh no, we have the dreaded echo on my side that I know you guys can't hear. So give me one second. Oh no, we have the dreaded
I got that.
Oh no, we have dreaded
I got that.
One more time. No, we have dreaded
I got that.
One more time. No, we have
Looks like I'm solo.
Oh my goodness gracious! Don't we just love tech?
Much better. That was like a bad loop track.
Oh my goodness gracious! Don't we just?
Oh wait.
Tech?
Much better. That was like a bad loop track.
Oh, it's still going. Don't we just?
Oh wait.
Yep. Man,
Much
I'm gonna
better.
close it
That was
out
like
on
a
this
bad
side.
loop track.
Oh, it's still going. Don't we just?
Oh wait.
Yep. Man,
Much
I'm gonna
better.
close it
That
out
was
on
like a
this
bad
side.
loop track.
Okay, all right. So my apologies for that. You guys probably can't hear it, but me and Matt can definitely hear it on this side. But we've got Matthew Bernier of Flashbulb Memories. You guys probably can't hear it, but me and Matt can definitely hear it on this side. And so the last time that we talked, Matt, we were, we had the Boothish, I'm sorry, we had the Boothish podcast, where we got to know you a little bit.
It sounds like everyone can hear the
You got into the photo booth industry. Podcast, where we got to know you a little bit.
It sounds like everyone can hear the
Okay, you're all right. So we're getting on both ends. All right, give me one second. All right, we're gonna pause this temporarily. Okay, and then we're gonna see if we can get to the bottom of this. Oh, actually, no. If we end up pausing it, it's gonna end. We're gonna pause this temporarily. So let's see where this is. If we can get to the bottom of this. Oh, actually, no. If we end up pausing it, it's gonna end. We're gonna pause this temporarily. So let's see where this is. Wow. Oh, actually, no. Everybody can hear the echo. Yay! Wow. Everybody can hear the echo. Yay! Echo for you, echo for me. Everybody can hear the echo. Yay!
I'm getting a guitar.
Echo for you, echo for me. Everybody can hear the echo. Yay! This is echo for you, echo for me. Nuts. Everybody. All right, there we go.
Like if that's
so the last time this happened, right, was a few episodes back with Zach. And then we got down to the bottom of it, I think. Well, but nobody else could hear. But anyway, I think you're good now. Can you hear me, Matt?
I'm good. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We're great. Okay. Cool. Matt, you had a rough start to your day. I'm having a rough start to this live. I think we're both on the same accord at this point, right?
Yes, sir. Can't get any worse than it is now.
Matthew was having some Airbnb problems on his end, and I was having some audio issues, but we're good now. So we're going to start with the first question that we had from folks regarding the Boothish podcast that we did. So the first question that you had as a follow-up for the podcast is, as you got into the photo booth industry, you said that you didn't calculate your numbers when you first got started. But the advice that you give to people now is that they should actually calculate their numbers before they get into the photo booth industry. What numbers do you wish that you calculated at the beginning that you advise people to start to calculate when they're first getting into the photo booth industry?
Yeah, so it's less about like a very specific number as it is kind of the whole picture of business feasibility. Yeah. So when you're going into a new business, you really want to do kind of like a market research study where you want to identify if your business is feasible. For this in particular, it's like I wanted to do the photo booth, but I didn't look at things like market fit, whether the product I wanted to offer, which was a really high-end photo booth, was even something that people in my area were willing to pay for or wanted. I didn't really lay out the costs. I kind of looked into the base cost out the door of what is it going to be to buy all the equipment and get it going, but I didn't really consider monthly software, service cost, insurance, all of those things that add up that, over the course of a year or annualized, but they can make a huge impact to your bottom line. Just being able to understand if I'm charging, at the time, $350 for an event, a lot of people, I think, when they're new to it, they see it the same way I did, which was I'm making $350, let's call it $500 broken out over 2 hours. That's $250 an hour. But that's really the wrong way to think about it, because you've got your media costs, you've got your fuel costs, if you've got someone you're hiring, you've got your labor costs. And then if you decide like, okay, that's my price point, how many events do I then have to do every month, every week, every year, with all of my cost considerations in play in order to get X salary at the end of the year, my profit takeaway. So a lot of that stuff, I think, is important to run through. And then you can look at stuff like your competitors. I don't really recall if I knew that there were competitors, but I didn't really analyze them deeply. And I 100% recommend that for every business now, because if I would have known my 10 competitors in the area, what they were charging, who their customers were, I could have come up with some strategy to beat them at their game, whether it's charging less for the same thing or doing something different that they don't offer that I know customers, after I did my research, would want. So it's just kind of a whole bunch of stuff. You got to do your market research, and best way to start if you don't know where to go is go to your local small business center. There's usually people there that'll help you get started and help you process all that information and figure out if that business is feasible from the start.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, one of the things you said was, I guess all of the kind of the costs and the fees that you didn't know coming into the business that were going to be there, right? Or that you didn't completely factor in, like you said, with the monthly software stuff. Other than the software stuff, I think you kind of mentioned a few things. What would you say would be like the top three that people really might find as a surprise as they get into the industry that they don't really think about?
Well, software adds up. At first I thought software was paying $5 a month for a Gmail subscription. And then you add the CRM into it, you add the social media stuff, you add like PicPic Social, you've got your Instagram, everything. You start adding and adding and adding, and that $5 a month becomes 35, becomes 50, becomes 100, becomes 300, becomes 500.
Quick.
So those numbers can get astronomical pretty quick when you're just adding a few dollars extra a month. So that is a big one. Other than that, I think general cost consideration is like, where do you want to be when you grow, and what does that look like? So I outgrew my space. I didn't really have room in my house to put everything. Right? Maybe I could if I wasn't married, but my wife would kill me. So I have to get a storage unit or an office essentially to store everything. It's Tucson, so the temperatures get hell hot here. So I have to have a air conditioned unit. So it's an extra fee for that. And then insurance. Insurance is something that right at the start I did get, because I knew just at least the general practice of how important that is.
Yeah.
But 100% should not cut corners on insurance, because you want to be covered in the worst case scenarios for sure.
I saw somebody post, I think it was maybe in PBN or somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't in the US, but I mean, God, who knows? But it looked like I want to say a tsunami, like a whole lot of water rushed through like a wedding and was just kind of like destroying everything. I don't know if you saw that posted recently.
Jeez, no, that sounds terrible. Yeah.
So insurance is definitely definitely an invaluable piece in your arsenal as a business owner. So as you were getting started, or during the podcast, you also mentioned that you were, I guess, in some multi-level marketing programs. Which MLMs were you a part of?
Yeah, interesting question. So I was in Isogenics, was the only one that I was a part of. I failed miserably. I mean, for me, that was not the right business, especially at the time. Maybe now I could get back into one and make some money, but for me, it's all about being authentic. And even though I had a passion for health and fitness and all that kind of stuff, which is why I chose that business, it just felt a bit more shady to me, trying to sell snake oil, even if it worked and even if there was science behind it, then something I could truly believe in and stand behind 100%.
What is Isogenics? I've never heard of it.
It's like a Herbalife type competitor, like natural shakes and dietary type products like that.
Supplements and all that good stuff. All
Supplements.
right.
Yep. Yep.
Gotcha. And the crazy thing is that what is it? Herbalife is like they're $1 billion company. I think they're on the, they're on the stock. What do you call it? They're in the stock market, right? They've got a stock symbol, so they're pretty massive. All right. Next question that we have: how did you find the person who you first hired, and what criteria did you set for what it is that you needed?
So the way I found the person that I first hired, I think, was through an Indeed ad, and they've long since been fired, as well as many others in between them. Not to say that that was because of Indeed, but yeah, I've gone through a good amount of employees in terms of churn. And from the beginning, I had like maybe the first year or 2 years in business, I was doing subcontractors and realized I need to make these people employees so I don't get in trouble. So I actually, got payroll set up and started doing that. But I think for the people that have worked out the best, it's really no rhyme or reason. I just happened to find the right people and got them. The one person that's been on my team for years and has been amazing was on Craigslist. I put up a job posting ad on Craigslist, and I just thought I was going to get crap from it. But I actually got probably the most promising leads in general for
Wow.
workers. And this girl ended up working out really well. And then from her, I've had referrals for other people who work for me part-time or full-time throughout season. And then outside of that, it's just contractors. I'll put up a listing on Trusted Herd if I need brand ambassadors or I need additional workers, or ask again friends if they know people.
So I assume you'd use Craigslist again now if you had to, based on that previous success?
I would, based on the previous success and also based on the current failures of other job posting sites.
Yeah.
I don't think any job posting site is small business friendly. So like with LinkedIn, I had to battle them on like several $1,000s of charges for a free 7-day trial that they set me up with.
Yeah.
And all that money resulted in 0 leads. And then with Indeed, I got like 24 candidates in the first week of the posting. No one would respond to my messages. No one would answer the phone.
Wow.
They'd like submit the application and that's it. So maybe it was just to get unemployment approved, to say that they submitted an application. But yeah, been really just with the online major platforms have not had much success.
Yeah, that stuff can definitely be tough. It adds up. I mean, I don't know how you're successful, how much you spent on Indeed, but yeah, you can quickly rack up a lot of bills with Indeed, specifically just as people are applying or to the jobs and not really have, I guess, great success with it in terms of finding somebody.
But put it out there and try it yourself, because every market's different. Yeah, so you never
100%.
know.
All right. Let's see. All right. So would you recommend for someone to start with Thumbtack today? Why or why not? And so this question comes from, if you didn't listen to the podcast, but Matt had, he's got his first few events off of Thumbtack and, transition from there. But so would you recommend someone to start with Thumbtack again today?
It depends. I haven't, been on Thumbtack in years, so I don't know what it's like today, if they're even still around. But assuming that there's still leads for private events, parties, birthdays, weddings, whatever, then if that's your strategy, is you want to be a low price provider and you're trying to just get your foot in the door, or even you're just trying to get your foot in the door, because everybody's got to start somewhere, to get some reviews and kind of get some backing of bookings, then yeah, why not? I would say go on Thumbtack, go on Craigslist, go on Facebook, go on Groupon, go, post everywhere, get it, try to get as many leads as you possibly can and just start getting some bookings under your belt, learn from it. Maybe you don't make any money, but you at least gain experience, get some reviews, and can start building your business and decide what you want to do out of that.
Yeah. I think Thumbtack is still around. I think they renamed to Bark or something like that, but I'm pretty sure that they're in these streets here somewhere. Okay, next up question that we have for you. Okay, why do you feel that some of those low price Thumbtack leads that you got didn't convert even with your prices being as low as they were when you were starting out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly why. I was always confused about that. I've got some thoughts, but when I was charging like $380 for 3 hours and they would say no, like how? Like why? I don't get it. Maybe someone, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if there was someone else on the platform charging $250 for the same 3 hours. I saw a lot of my competitors at that time that people would reference, like, oh, I'm going to go with this company, or I got this option. We're literally just some dude with a tripod, a camera, and a Canon selfie or some kind of crappy printer. And they would show up and they'd set up a table and put up a tarp backdrop that they'd like clamp on something, and there's your photo booth. So there's a lot of like, not misinformation, but people didn't know at the time like what
Yeah.
the differences were between stuff. I didn't have anything to market to or advertise about that. So I think that's probably where I lost those leads, strictly based on price. But um, yeah, you
Yeah.
never know. Some people are just weird.
That is interesting. And I mean, to that point of, people showing up and, it's just that kind of Genki, janky, photo booth setup. It's one of those like where people say you get what you pay for. And but it's still interesting though. I guess people who have high quality systems will still, I guess go in and go really super low priced. But I think eventually after they see how much work, how much time you actually have to spend on the business, they eventually end up trying to raise their rates. But it could just be for the fact of, all right, let's build that portfolio. Let's get something together so that we can say we're a photo booth business and have some nice, pretty pictures on our website that shows off what
Yep.
they do. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
when you decided to go full time, did you almost quit at some point, and why was that?
Yeah, I've almost quit many times. So it's been a roller coaster, here and there. As far as making the leap full time and diving in, after doing that for a couple of years and really just not having much to show for it in terms of actual profit and money made from the business, I went back and kind of did the math, and like I could have been making more working part-time at McDonald's as a cashier, with two college degrees and all this experience, just like then doing my business. So, that's not necessarily typical for every boother or every business. I'd say there's a lot that I could have learned back then that I didn't know, and also a lot that my market and my area and what I was trying to do and how that aligned with my business, just a lot of things I could have done differently. But ultimately, I was ready to call it quits, but I'm also super stubborn. So, I try to stick things out long term. And I figure, okay, if I'm not making money that I thought I would be, instead of quitting, I'm going to add. So I, start another business and do something else. I find another way to make money to pay bills and then keep doing this. And eventually I got to that point where I reached the hill. And then right after that, it was, skyrocketing. And it's like, all right, this is not only like a good business, this is a great business. It's sustainable. It pays really well. And now I can stop doing other things.
Yeah. And that's, geez, I'm trying to remember where I heard that quote, but there's a quote of something about at the point that you're ready to quit is really the point that you should, continue
Yep.
on. And not to say that this is the case in every single moment, but at least for me, it's, those moments where you're like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. I should just kind of let all of this go. And once you push past it and you get past that point and you're able to say, all right, you know what, I'm really glad that I stuck it through to be able to get the results of it. I mean, if it was this easy, if being a business owner was this easy, everybody would do it. And if being a photo booth owner was specifically that easy, although it seems like everybody does it, a lot more people would be doing it and having
Yeah.
all types of crazy success.
Yeah. They say that 5 years, most small businesses don't make it 5 years. And I get it. That was kind of at that marker of turning point of whether or not it's going to be successful. And, I could have had it running for indefinitely, but not necessarily making any money or successful. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you really want to do it and you see potential and you've got a plan, then like stick with it.
Yeah.
Just see where you go.
So we've got a question from the audience that we'll jump into. What would you recommend paying your employees? I guess this goes back to your earlier question. Oh, yeah, the earlier answer.
Pay them well. Not everyone's is motivated by money. Some people want like, well, I mean, everybody wants your recognition, period. My one star girl, I ask her all the time, like, what can I do to make this better for you? How can I make this more enticing, get you more events, whatever? She's like, just pay me more. She loves money. So anytime I give her a raise, she's absolutely thrilled. But find out what your local rate is in your area, like what's minimum wage there, maybe what are other event staff charging in terms of their rate, or what are other companies paying for their employees. But definitely don't lowball. If it's between, and actually that's one of the reasons I raised my rates over the years, is I tried to find good quality people. So instead of paying someone minimum wage, I decided I'm going to pay them a decent rate, and they're going to get paid more than the time that they need to be. So
Yeah.
I pay them from the time they like pick up the equipment until the time they drop it off, even the gallery upload. They get paid for driving, transportation, mileage, like everything. So rate wise, totally depends on your area. In my area, I pay between $20 to $25 an hour, and it's payroll. So I've got employer taxes and everything on top of that. But for brand ambassadors, I'll do more for contract work because I don't have to pay the taxes on that portion. So just look into your area and see what's going on. And if you're on the lower end of that, raise your rates and then just raise your price.
Yeah, it might be pretty tough, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are going through right now, right? When they're trying to find booth attendants, if you're not finding the people that you want, you're probably not charging, or you're probably not paying, the rates that somebody could get if they were spending their time probably doing something else full time, or that's even a little bit more consistent than whatever you might be giving them on the weekends for those gigs.
Yep.
Okay, next up, in terms of SEO, what are the most common SEO mistakes that you see most photo booth websites make?
Oh, there's a bunch. I haven't like spent, I don't spend hours or days like going over people's websites and critiquing them, but based on just like general idea of what's out there, photo booth or not, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people will go one of two ways. They'll try to like make their website amazing. So they'll hire a nice web designer, they'll get a nice template online and build that out. And that's great, but beautiful doesn't mean optimized. In fact, some of the prettiest websites are generally the worst optimized because all of the time and effort spent into building all these beautiful assets, making it like a seamless scrolling page and animations, is terrible for SEO. So I would say spend more money on SEO and less money on aesthetic. Don't make it look like crap. Like, put some time, work, effort into it, but spend more of your time on the technical optimization side of it.
So I think a lot of people well, let me not say a lot of people, but let me just say, I know that people have a tough time maybe understanding what that actually means, like the technical side of it.
Mhm.
Are there any specific pieces of advice that you can give people who want to maybe dabble into their own SEO to kind of, boost their rankings?
Yeah, the biggest thing that you could possibly, well, you could do this across the board. I would say go on YouTube and look up technical SEO or how to optimize my website SEO. You'll find a lot of great resources, a lot of free stuff that'll walk you through a lot of it. You are limited by your website provider. So a lot of people start, as I did, on like Weebly, Squarespace, one of those quick, easy website builders. And eventually the pros move into WordPress or some custom development because there's so much more flexibility with both how you can build it out, but also how you can optimize for SEO. So at some point, you can get to WordPress. You don't have to be in WordPress in order to optimize, but start looking up how to do on-site optimization of my website. Things like meta tags, things like proper keyword targeting, proper HTML structure just basically means, do you have one single header one tag on your page? And then do you have multiple header two tags? Do you have content that supports those header two tags? Do you have links linking from one page to the other page on your website with proper keyword anchoring? If all that sounds like complete gibberish, then again, just go on YouTube and look up on-site optimization of my website or technical SEO getting started, and there's tons of stuff out there.
Is there a particular person that you would recommend, that they consume content from?
Yeah, Pat Flynn has a lot of good stuff, not necessarily SEO focused, but he's got a lot of resources that touch on SEO and brings people on for SEO. Obviously, Neil Patel is a
Yeah.
huge name. I personally wouldn't hire his agency, and I won't go into that, but he's got a lot
No,
of
you
great
got to go into that.
resources.
What happened?
It just too salesy. It didn't seem like if you're hiring Neil Patel's agency, you're not getting Neil Patel, obviously, but the way they have it set up, I feel like it's maybe good for someone who doesn't know anything about what they're doing, but you're going to pay a premium for it. You're probably better off finding a local SEO person or someone on Upwork. But in either case, check out Neil Patel's website. A lot of great resources. Yeah, and just Google it. If it comes up at the top page of Google, like they're doing something right.
Yeah.
So clearly, it's going to be helpful in most cases.
I'd probably even say, just to throw this in there, Brian Dean, but he recently sold his company to SEMrush, but he's somebody else who has a lot of good SEO related content.
Yeah,
Okay.
SEMrush has good stuff too.
Yes. Oh, and Ahrefs, but yes, there's plenty of stuff out there. Okay. How do you properly hire someone to do your SEO when it takes almost 4 to 6 months to see results?
That's definitely a hard one, especially not knowing anything about it. It's like going to the dealer and asking for all these car customizations, and then they're like, "Well, what do you want?" You're like, "Well, I don't know. I want want it to go faster, and I want this." They're gonna pour snake oil again in your engine and say, "All right, you're good to go." So that's a hard question. It's definitely a hard thing to do, but some tips that I would give you are to ask them a lot of questions, because the people who know what they're doing are able to answer your questions. One thing to keep in mind is if anybody in SEO tells you that you're going to get X results by X date, whether it's like certain number of leads or you're going to be ranked on a certain page of Google, they are lying to you, and you should fire them or not hire them, because they're just, they have either no idea what they're doing, or they're making false promises, or they're going to do black hat SEO, which basically means they're going to spam the crap out of the internet with your site, and it's going to cause problems for you either right away or down the line. So stay away from that. Ask them questions like, what are you going to do to the website? What opportunities do you see on my, with what you see right now? Where would I need to go to get from point A to point B? What is point A? What is point B? How much does that cost each month? How do you charge for services? Is it based on hourly, or is it set project based? Do you have results based pricing? And if you do have results based pricing, probably stay away, because again, they can't really guarantee anything. Yeah, and if they're able to answer your questions, then it's probably a good sign, because a lot of people that say they do SEO, they know nothing about SEO. And when you start asking questions like, oh, well, I can, I'll write blogs for you, and that's as far as they go. Or, oh, we'll get you optimized, and we'll put in all the optimization on there, and I've got tools to do that. Like, that's not an answer to the question. If they say something that makes no sense, like, oh, well, your site, before we can do anything, we need to perform an analysis of your site and a competitor analysis and kind of put together a blueprint. That's the person you want to continue that conversation with, because that means they're not just trying to sell you on something that you don't need. They want to figure out where you are, and then what it'll take to get you to that next level.
So this isn't on here, but in general, I'm asking you, do you offer your services to photo boothers?
I used to. Now I don't really. If you've got questions, kind of like general stuff you want to run by me or need some help, I'm always down to help people with business, boothing, whatever. But in general, I don't offer SEO related services to photo booths, because one, it's competitive with what I do directly. Before it wasn't, when I was just in Tucson and only wanted to do a small market. But now that we've got statewide and nationwide presence through white labeling, really, I'm all about optimizing what we have. So, glad to help where I can. If you've got another business that you're working on, then perhaps there's a conversation we can have about that. But probably not the right person to hire for what you want to do with your website.
Gotcha. All right. Makes sense. Don't want to bring everybody else's page to number one when you're trying to get to number one in every major city in the U.S.
Oh, and on that note, ask your SEO person if they are already working with clients like you, because if there's some people I've seen on the network that are like doing SEO for everybody's photo booth company. I would not trust someone who's basically getting paid from 100 different angles to outrank each other. Like, you can't possibly be helping customer A if all 49 of your other customers are in the same business and you say that you're helping them too. So I'd find someone who would specialize in what you do and set up an exclusive agreement to only help a photo booth industry or photo booth company like yours in that city or state, whatever that needs to be, so that you're not getting someone who's not really invested in your business.
Makes 100% sense. And I mean, I'd say probably expect to pay a premium for that on top of it. But it makes, I think that's probably the best way to secure yourself, because you can't serve two masters, I think is the expression. Okay. Here we have the last question up on this list. What are the most helpful things a new boother or existing can do? What are the most helpful things a new boother or existing boother can do to improve their photo booth business?
There are a lot of things you can do. In general, new or existing, maybe you already have this, maybe you don't, but if you don't, I'd say do it. Get yourself set up with a business email. There's nothing like emailing clients from @Gmail or Yahoo or whatever else. It's just not professional, and maybe some of you don't care, but at some point that will matter, especially if you get into bigger clients or corporate clients, as everyone says. But set up a business account on G Suite. It's like $5 or $6 a month, and you get a branded email, super easy to use. You get access on your phone, apps, whatever, and you get your calendar. You can separate everything out. Other than that, definitely get a CRM going. You can start with something easier. You can grow later. I recommend finding something that is future proof. And by that, I mean something you can grow into, because it's a pain in the butt to transfer CRMs later down the line. Things like Tave, Dubsado, Check Cherry, Boothbook, all those are great options. Look into them, see what makes sense for you, but get a CRM, start documenting, put together lead funnels on your website, start taking notes on your leads, get everybody in one place, put together your pricing packages, whatever, so you can have it all in one area that you can manage. And then from there also you can track things. You can see what your history looks like, what your busy days are like, forecast, all that kind of stuff that's going to be useful. And also set up like a phone system. So get a Google Voice account, get a dial pad or one of those other phone VoIP services so that you can, again, come across as professional. In my case, I've got like 6 different businesses. So if I had everything going to my personal cell, it would not only get hectic, but it would also get confusing when I'm answering the phone. So with my business line, I've got it set up to process a certain way. You can set up voicemail services, all that kind of stuff. But it just makes you look more professional if you've got a dedicated number for that. And it also helps keep you organized. So that's helpful. And then other than that, I'd say spend time learning your equipment, get to know what you do. I don't know how many times I've seen on the network where people post, help, I'm at an event, first event, just got my equipment yesterday, something's wrong. Like, shame on you for booking that event, first of all. I'm all for like, just kind of go for it and figure it out, build your parachute on the way down. But if you're running a business, you can't do that to the customer if they're going to suffer. If it's just you that's suffering, like, by all means, go for it. But if there's a customer involved, you need to treat them the way that you'd want to be treated. And they're paying for this, whether they're paying pennies or not. So like, learn your stuff, set aside time on the weekend, whatever you need to really dive into your equipment, troubleshoot stuff, break things, fix them, figure out how lighting works, how the aperture works, and ask questions. And you're not going to know everything all the time. And like, the network is there. There's a lot of great people to support you.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to help. But the more you know your equipment inside and out, it's going to position you better with your clients because it'll look like you know what you're talking about. But then also you're going to run into less issues when you're actually out there. And in general, you're not going to leave a bad mark or bad taste in the client's mouth. If something happens, you'll be able to figure it out.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much for that, Matt. I think you did a great job answering these follow-up questions for Matthew. If you didn't get the chance to check out that podcast episode, you can find it on your favorite streaming app. You can also go check it out on YouTube. Search up the Boothish podcast, and you'll be able to easily find it. Matthew, we're going to wrap here. Any last words?
No, I mean, if you have questions, always reach out. Happy to help out where I can. I try to post encouraging things, helpful things whenever I can. I got a lot of information in my head that I've yet to put to paper, but it's coming soon. And, hopefully I can package that up and help some other boothers and people who are getting started. But in the meantime, by all means, feel free to shoot questions my way.
Awesome. All right, Matt, thanks for being here. Take care.
Cool. Have a good one.